Put your hands together for Rich, everybody.
So it's the summer of 2004, and I'm in a doctor's office, and the doctor has a pencil, and he's pointing out the finer pieces of a woman's uterus. And I'm very, very uncomfortable. Because in 5th grade, when we had health education, it was done by my gym teacher, Mr. Lillendahl. Mr. Lillendahl was 7'10", 480 pounds, and spoke with the deepest voice I ever heard in my entire life. And he explained to me that if I did not wear a condom, I was going to get a disease that looked like a lot of terrible, terrible pictures. In the summer of 2004, I was learning about the female anatomy in a way that no man should ever learn. No man. I had a reproductive endocrinologist that was telling me about all sorts of things that could go wrong with my anatomy, with my wife's anatomy, with any anatomy in terms of why things don't work. And it was the most uncomfortable moment of my adult life because as a man, I was happy just learning it from Playboy and bad porno. Now, my wife and I had been trying to conceive for the better half of 2 years, and I had done everything. I had done timing things and measuring things and using thermometers and checking basal temperatures and going to get medical tests, and we had finally got to the end of our rope and went to a fertility clinic, and that's where I was. And we started on the path of trying to have a child in the not-so-natural way, which, again, is not the most comfortable thing in the entire universe. And so we went down the path of me learning how to inject my wife with drugs, and me learning about estrogen, and me learning about various other things that would be put into my body and my wife's body, about learning why a blue leather chair in a very awkward, very well-lit room is probably the worst place possible to try to imagine a naked woman. And we went through the process of trying to conceive. Now, when you go through the process of trying to conceive unnaturally, you normally will set a limit for yourself. So we said 3 months. We're going to try it 3 times. And at the end of the first month, when it was a failure, I destroyed every plate in my kitchen, picking them up and throwing them against the ground and smashing them, and then saying, let's go on a shopping spree. And then the second month, when we had an ectopic pregnancy, we were very excited. And then we were very unexcited, and then we had to go through a very difficult time. And at that point, I bought an entire new living room. Couches, chairs. I figured if I was going to spend $5,000 on drugs that I was going to inject into somebody and then have nothing happen, I might as well spend a few $100s or a few $1,000s on something that I could sit on and watch my beloved sports teams play. And so the third month, when it also failed, we were at the end of our rope. Now, I should tell you, I was a traveling consultant at the time. I spent months on the road. I was getting on a plane on Monday, and I was coming home on Thursday or Friday, and that meant that the days that I had to fly home so that I could have the prescribed intercourse before injecting my wife with Ovidrel, which would force her to ovulate so that I could go to a room that was much more brightly lit than it needed to be, so that they could take my sperm and throw it through a centrifuge and then give me stats. And by the way, as a man who loves stats, when someone says, you have 17 million sperm, you say, yes! You know, it's just one of those wonderful moments in your life, and but it never works. And so I said, all right, month 4, screw it, let's try it one more time, but I'm going to be in France because I'm a traveling consultant, and I pushed off this trip for 3 months so that I could get there. And so we did, and I flew home from France for a weekend. I literally flew home, and I said, okay, now, I don't care what, and I don't know about you ladies who understand the way things work, but on your ovaries, eggs form like pimples. They do. These things are called follicles, and they grow, and you nurture them. And the idea is that you grow them faster than they should grow. And then they say things like, you have like a 80% chance of multiple births. And I was like, I had like 100% chance of one birth, but if you give me multiples, that's great, because this 3-month, $5,000 a month thing really isn't working for me. And so you know, we grew the follicles, and I flew home, and we did the whole thing, and I injected my wife, and then I went to the room, and then we went back, and then I flew back to France. And I didn't know anything. I was in France for another 2 weeks, because you don't know anything for 2 weeks. And I got home, and I landed, and I was very uncomfortable. And I walked through customs, and is there anything that you need to declare? And I said, no, but I hope my wife has something to declare when I get through the customs. And when I went through, she told me that we were pregnant with my first daughter. And so now, for all 3 of my children, I tell them, it was a beautiful, wonderful, amazing night, very romantic. It was me, and it was my wife, and it was a reproductive endocrinologist with a syringe of my sperm, and a blanket and a table with my wife's legs in the air, and an egg timer that they bought at the dollar store. Thank you.